In the last episode on Cézanne, which is episode 16 of season 1, we mentioned that Cézanne complained that Gauguin stole his ideas. One interesting thing to find out is what he did with those stolen ideas. Gauguin was born 9 years after Cézanne, but died 3 years before. Probably because Gauguin developed his painting styles on top of Cézanne, Gauguin is normally chronologically considered a painter after Cézanne. Another reason is probably that Gauguin moved in another direction based on Cézanne, Gustave Moreau, or Diron Redon. His development is known today as symbolism. Remember my warning about the names of art styles and movements? To be totally honest, I'm afraid of delving into the definition of symbolism, because in painting at least, it is an exquisite style, so exquisite that many say that it is not a particular style. I'm sure you're thinking now that I'm not making any sense. How can something exquisite be not particular? I guess the best answer is that logic is not what the art world is good at. Let's leave that topic to the future and get into Gauguin's life. Paul Gauguin was born in 1848 in Paris. It was a year of revolt. It was a case of liberal revolt gone out of control. The word liberal was used then in the same sense that it is used today, which is to say that it is a movement to take freedom away from the people. In February, the king was overthrown. The Second Republic was elected. Of course, it is too conservative to the taste of the radicals. So the liberals launched the so-called June Days Uprising. The uprising was unsuccessful, but it led to the election of Louis Napoleon Bonaparte as the president of the Second Republic. To make a long story short, Bonaparte became Napoleon III as the Second Republic became the Second Empire. For lack of a better comparison, Napoleon III is like Joe Biden, with abundance of ambition but no ability. The result was that under his inept foreign policy, Germany became a unified country and gave the world 2 world wars. For those who do not understand what I have just said, things could be understood easily this way. Think China as Germany at that time. Today, China is systematically destroying freedom of other people, but the establishments almost everywhere are on China's side. Remember the British people who wholeheartedly supported Neville Chamberlain. With things going this way, an establishment which is hard on the wrong side and a complacent and ignorant population is a deadly mixture, because it would forego all opportunities before it is too late. In the Franco-Prussian War, Napoleon III was captured. Then German troops moved into France and put Paris under siege. Peace would come with an indemnity of 5 billion francs, or 200 million pounds, or $1 billion, and cessation of Alsace and Lorraine to Germany. In exchange, the Parisians got the Paris Commune. Let me quote Karl Marx, the father of communism. "Working man's Paris, with its commune, will be forever celebrated as the glorious harbinger of a new society. Its martyrs are enshrined in the great heart of the working class. Its exterminator's history already nailed to that eternal pillory from which all the prayers of their priest will not avail to redeem them." When LBJ launched his Great Society program, Pat Moynihan warned him that he would ruin the future of the blacks by breaking up their families. But LBJ went ahead anyway, expecting to secure the black vote for 200 years. In many quarters today, LBJ is a revered figure. I don't know who are more evil, LBJ or his supporters. Only recently, 150 years after the Paris Commune and 50 years after the Great Society, we see the working class, what Karl Marx called proletariat, waking up to that. Now the establishment is forced to rely on the not working poor, whom even Marx thought that the socialist-communist revolution could not rely on. In other words, today's elite, including all those who get their paychecks from taxpayers' largesse, Silicon Valley types, the highly educated or brainwashed, and socialists of every denomination, are more desperate and less reasonable in their thinking. In the end, the self-appointed and self-described venerable professors and teachers are becoming increasingly aggressive, surrounded by violent and brainwashed believers. The ultimate problem is the insufficiency of the not working poor to form the basis, so they look for those illegal immigrants who came to the United States for social welfare to push them to the promised land. Ancient Roman citizens fell for that. So did France under the Paris Commune. Lucky France did not get Lenin, Stalin, or Mao. The Paris Commune quickly failed, and Napoleon III was put in charge. Among Gauguin's idols was his grandmother, Flora Tristan, who was the illegitimate daughter of some Spanish aristocrat who was powerful in Peru. In an attempt to get more money out of this relationship, she made a trip to Peru in 1833. It was not successful, but her travelogue sold so well that she became a career writer. Her goal in life was to make France a socialist country. She worked hard on it. In fact, she worked so hard that she was soon under the surveillance of the French police before working herself to death in 1844 at the age of 41, 4 years before the Liberal Revolt and the birth of Gauguin. I spent so much time on Flora Tristan because Gauguin idolized his grandmother and kept copies of her books with him to the end of his life, to quote one of Gauguin's biographers. In 1850, 2 years after the revolt and the birth of Gauguin, his father took the family to Peru, trying to use his wife's connections to launch his own journalistic career. He died of a heart attack on the way, but because one of the relatives, José Echenique, would shortly become the president of Peru, the family took care of Gauguin, who lived like a true prince. When Echenique was overthrown in 1855, all were lost. Gauguin's mother took the family back to Paris and worked as a dressmaker. Gauguin was sent to Orléans to the care of his paternal grandfather. After serving the French Navy for 2 years, Gauguin worked at the Paris Stock Exchange, or the Paris Bourse, and became quite successful there, making some 30,000 francs a year. 2 years into the good life, he married a Dane, Mette Sophie Glad, who was an enthusiastic art collector, a very determined woman against the sensitive Gauguin. In the good years, they had 5 children together. Gauguin started painting at this time with painters like Pissarro and exhibited with them. This is a scene of where he lived, not far from today's Eiffel Tower. When the stock market crashed in 1882, Gauguin lost his job and put all his energy to art. At first, it might have been a refuge, but it soon developed into his devotion. In personal life, after he decided to devote to art full-time, his marriage crumbled down. So let's look at some of his paintings when he was making money at the Paris stock market. For Gauguin, there has to be a strong sense of calling for him to decide to stop wasting his life working on nothing but money. We, with the hindsight, know that he made the right call, as the world is better because of it. We have seen Cézanne emphasizing the structures of landscapes. Gauguin did less of that. His brush strokes were shorter, without the impressionist emphasis on the fleeting effect of light. Instead of trying to represent solid structure, he focused more on the effects of distortions, such as flattening. Everyone has seen paintings like this one. It clearly shows exciting ideas waiting to be clarified. It's like you hear someone humming music themes that's full of potential to be developed. Some years back, when my wife was learning painting from a friend of hers, I did some drawings for the kick of it. When I did a book and a half, she took them to her friend's teacher, who was famous in some circles. He said that it would be a waste if I didn't develop my skills. That was how I got into art. After the stock market crash in 1882, Gauguin faced the same question. Much more than me, he knew by then he was good, despite the critics' trashing. The question was whether he would put the time into developing his skills. Let's look at a few more paintings by Gauguin in this period. See if you agree with me. If you were his friend, would you recommend him to stop making money and devote himself to art? His story continues in the next episode. I'll see you then.